just not having that example, and then coming to learn about what the word says about manhood and how you start becoming, not becoming a man, but as you grow into your man, you start to adapt more things. As you start to emulate Christ, you recognize that everything doesn't require table flipping and whips. Some things require, daughter, go get me some water, and let's chop it up when you come back, and I can tell you about how to have a better life. You know what I'm saying? So there's just the different ways to respond to things. In my head, it was always very, you know, when I was a man, I have to stand bigger. It's like, yo, you 5'9", you never gonna stand no bigger. But how you respond is how you stand.
He's done miracles. Back again, he's done miracles on me. Back again.
You sure got 448? You read the question?
All of it.
Take a deep breath.
All of it.
Read that. All right. What didn't you receive as a child from a parent and or parents that you feel could have helped you navigate your adult relationships?
An example. No, I'm saying an example, like an example of a successful relationship and what that actually looks like in the house. Like my father wasn't in the picture. And then when I was young, like early elementary school, my mother had a boyfriend that we lived with. And I mean, I never really seen them like argue and beef or nothing, but I also don't like, my memory of them is really faint. So I don't really remember seeing them interact a lot. Like me and his kids would be together, but they would be in the room or chilling or going, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really recall, and I'm not to say that's exactly how accurate it was. I'm just saying my memory of it. And so outside of that, the other boyfriends that my mother may have had when I was growing up, they were never serious enough for there to be like continual interaction with me and them. And then she had a serious boyfriend like after I joined the military, but I was gone, and I'm already absorbing manhood from other examples and whatever I can draw from as an 18, 19-year-old kid who moved away from home 2,500 miles, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking to Sarshan, and I'm looking like, okay, who can I draw stuff from? And so having never had a proper, and then even none of my uncles, like my aunties and uncles were divorced, you know what I'm saying? And those who were, you know, I ain't trying to put my uncles out there, but you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of outside children. I got, you know, cousins that don't really look alike, you know what I'm saying? So I just never really had the proper example. And so I think the hopeless romantic in me was like, I'm gonna do it right. But I still didn't have an example of what right looked like. I just knew what not to do, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can't work that way, so just don't do that and you go to a good start, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was the major thing that I feel like I was lacking that would have helped a lot. And I'm not saying that any example would have been perfect, but some type of interactive standard to have a baseline.
Yeah.
That's strong examples. Yeah. You saw examples, they just whack. You know what I mean?
Even if they wouldn't totally whack, they would just, like, it was just something lacking. Yeah, like whatever it was just something lacking. Like whatever example you were looking at, it's like, oh, no way, you got an all right relationship. And then, like you said, such and such comes up with a child, it's like, I thought you had a do.
My child was good.
Yeah, you know, so yeah, it was just the example.
And even those are examples of real life, because things happen. People make good decisions and bad ones, and non-communicative relationships can lead to things like that nature. So I get it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those examples innately, but just something. Because as a young kid with no dad, man, the Hustlers was who I looked up to. I'm like, yo, they got the lifestyle. People, when they walk, like, I remember when I was in high school, right? Before we could go to the club, all the hustlers would come to the liquor store. So everybody pulling up with their cars, we would go to the parking lot just to be around that scene, because this is the closest we could get to the club. They're about to leave here and go party. we felt like the party was being around them and the women that are stepping out of their cars. And we like, yo, when we get 18, we going there too. You know what I mean? So just being around it. And then, you know, they come out, throw you a little money, go in there and get you some little nigga. You know what I'm saying? So you feel like, yo, this is, that's big off. You know what I mean? But still horrible example. Horrible example.
He saying that was good. Yeah, he was just saying it.
Definitely been through that, but one thing that I do, I'll just put this real quick that helps me with my children and processing is now that I give that that I learned was consistency from my grandfather, but something that I really didn't get that was real valuable is time. Like time is something that's like real valuable. So I give my kids one-on-one time because I got so many.
Yeah.
So next one, like wow, you know what I'm saying? So,
He got baby, the song got that.
that's how that episode. But I do one-on-ones with each one. A whole nother one. So I do one-on-ones with them, and I think it's most productive because it gives them quality time over quantity. So if you can get that quality time, it's like, all right, what's going on? Let me check with you. No interruptions, no phones, stuff like that, and check on you, see how you're doing, so you can at least express yourself. Where it's no repercussion. Tell me how you really feel. No repercussion.
Safe space.
Let's put an exclamation mark on that. Though.
Yeah, safe space.
The safe space.
Absolutely.
Let's put an exclamation mark on that because I can honestly say that's like the most important thing with my son. Literally having that time away, like one-on-one time. We at IHOP or we at Waffle House. We eating everything. Okay, tell me about what's going on in life.
Yeah, the amnesty box.
Exactly. Like real talk. You already know what it is every time you tell me something. Like
Yeah.
then your mom might have a conversation about it, but we have an understanding that we were doing such and such stuff too when we were young. Like, let's make sure you have a space where you can tell us what you were doing. Or before you do it, you can tell us. Like the other day, and it's like right before Halloween, sitting there talking to him, and I was like, so what you and your friends doing for Halloween? He's like, maybe I can tell you, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. I was like, go ahead and drop it. He was like, well, we got this dude, you know, he has some fake IDs that he can make and blah, blah. And we were talking about going bar hopping. And I was like, all right, y'all make a decision about it or what? So he was like, well, we haven't really decided totally. I said, well, I'm not gonna tell you nothing, but I'm gonna tell you this. You already know my story. I started going to clubs when I was 15. I had a fake ID. I was using my brother's ID. I was doing this, that, and the third. I'm gonna just tell you, you run into one of these places, they might just look at your ID, be like, this is trash, and they go ahead and take it. They got little machines that will scan your stuff now. It's not them always just looking at it. If it's a random security guard, you probably ain't gonna do nothing. You're gonna take your ID and gonna tell you to leave. If it's a police officer, he gonna look at that mug and be like, hold on for a second, call his boys to come get you. So take your life in your own hands. I'm not gonna tell you to do it. I'm not gonna tell you not to do it. What I am gonna tell you is, these are your options. These are potential problems you might run into. Have a conversation with your friends about what you're gonna do. It's a worth the risk. Exactly. They went ahead and talked, did their thing, whatever. I left it alone. I didn't say anything else to them. Halloween came, gone. Talk to them. Did y'all go ahead and go out? Nah, we went in and stayed.
Yes,
I was like, it is.
Present options and let them choose.
You can go to the bar.
You gotta go into the man with choices. Absolutely.
He gonna make a decision anyway.
Yeah, I'm
So
trying to
he's
make sure you make
telling
an
you what you're
informed
doing.
one.
And the safe space is important because if something happens, you want your kid to call you, come get me from this party. And if the space isn't safe, you're gonna try to figure out another way to leave because you wasn't supposed to be there. You're gonna get yelled at for being there. And it's like, I don't wanna be able to pick my kids, pick up the phone and be like, Mom, just here's the address, you come get me, we'll talk about it later, right? Because my kids already gonna know, I'm gonna have 90 questions, but yes, call me. I want you to call me. I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to think you can't pick up the phone. And so I think that's important that this generation is trying to change. It's a safe space to be like, hey, ABC, XYZ.
Exactly. Because if it's going down, I'm like, do I need to come myself or do I need to bring the heaters? Like,
There you go. Like, that's
What is the people looking at?
Listen, I got an uncle told me, and I know we got to answer the next question, but I got an uncle told me straight up, like, listen, don't call me unless when I get there, I'm activated. Like, I'm not coming here for y'all to still talk it out. You're calling me because y'all talked it out, and the end result is you need me to show up and do what I do. So don't call me unless you're ready for the. I'm coming in, Blaze. Like when you see my car turn the corner, duck. I'm coming to neutralize
That's my mindset from the jump. I was like, yo, listen, I need my wife to be so on point because when I have kids, there are levels to this. Because when it comes to me, you're gonna need bail money. And if you gotta call me, daddy's coming to shut down. Not talk about it, shut it down, and we'll discuss the repercussions later.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like there's gotta be understanding. So I get it.
What you got, Shani?
So this was written by.
Oh, she wrote that one.
No, actually,
You wrote me.
no, I got it.
You probably use your alias or something. That's yours. Unless you all get on her ghost account.
This was actually from my other therapy friend, Jaquil,
Of course. Of course.
but it's not me. It was okay,
You
so
2.5.
I was gonna hand it to you, and I was like, oh, she didn't write this one, never mind, okay. Many times men are told to be an Ephesians 5 man, but grew up in fatherless homes or homes where there was not a good male example, such as substance abuse and domestic violence. Please tell us how your walk with Christ changed your perception of being a man.
He taught me how to love.
That's I like that.
I actually like the physical aspect from a being or someone to actually feel that presence of love from a male figure in that aspect. Because walking out with Christ had me where I ended up being in church and seeing a good role model as far as Dr. John, rest in peace, passed not too long ago. But definitely mentored me and showed me another aspect. He was like a father who opened doors and gave flowers and stuff like that. So great example of a man. I say by far one of the men that shows me. My grandmother showed me Christ walking in my aspect of a good person walking like Christ, my grandmother. And this man right here as a man version of that. So in that aspect of it, that's what I really just got out of it. It's pretty much she showed me this is the first man, like outside of, well, I had my uncles and stuff who gave me a hug because my grandfather was never hugged, so he never hugged us. But my uncles did because they got it from my grandmother. So, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it changed the trajectory of them. So they did give me a hug. But at times you need to get that embrace from another man as a young man, like, okay, it's okay to hug. And they tell you, yeah, when you're crying, dude, but they hug you and they embrace you. And that's all you need to do. Huh? Bruh, didn't I just tell you?
See this? See how deep that sidebar got? Like, you need grandma to know.
It should feel so bad.
You want to hug me right now?
I mean, she did give me hugs. and
Nah,
stuff.
he embraced the women.
He gave me
Yeah,
hugs.
that's the thing. Is y'all broke him down. When it came down to the girls, he started hugging y'all, you know what I'm saying, and stuff, and embraced it. But it took some time. You know what I'm saying? You came 4 years after me. So, you know what I'm saying? But nah, it definitely is as far as man to man. It came from my uncles and then from this man. But yeah, just knowing how to be in love and stuff, and that's how you can walk. And I think to answer the question, seeing the physical example of Christ in a person and being loved is a way that you're gonna be able to walk it out. Because a lot of us is like physical beings that you see, it's gotta be tangible in order to walk that out. So regardless of all the other negative stuff that come on, because that all go on in my family since I met. So like all that, like my family's wild and I love them dearly, you know what I'm saying? Great time. But at the end of the day, the good part is what I focused on. That's what I need, you know what I'm saying? Because the streets gonna be the streets, but at the end of the day, it's the love and the camaraderie is what brings people into the streets. You know what I'm saying? Not having that at home. So that love once again and that embrace. So it's that physical.
See, that was one of the things when we was just talking about what do we need, and I was thinking about love. And that's something that I wish that I saw and understood more growing up to transition to my kids. And even within this moment right now, I was like, dude, okay, so that's something that I need. I need to go back to my kids and make sure they understand what love is too. And that I'm doing an example of that and I'm telling them what love is. It ain't, love is an action for me. You know what I mean? That's what love is. And I just need to talk to my kids. And I wish that my mother and my father, anybody just said, okay, this is what love is. This is what it is. This is what we do. This is why I love you. This is why God loves you. This is just some because everything else I was getting from the world. you know, and looking at the world and looking at MTV and looking at BET Live and saying, oh, that's love. You know what I mean? And BET at night. That's love. Love her. You know what I'm saying? After dark. Like, that's love. That's love. I guess that's love. So that's what I'm gonna practice. But that's the only thing that I saw. So that's big. And I looked up Ephesians 5, and I'm just looking at the first verse because it's the whole chapter, just to say it, and this is the Amplified version. Therefore become imitators of God, copy him and follow his example. As well-beloved children imitate their father and walk continually in love. That is, value one another, practice empathy and compassion, unselfishly seeking the best for others, just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and sacrifice to God, slain for you, so that it became a sweet fragrance. Now that's just the first, but just in that says a whole lot right there. So
Another example on earth.
right there.
I think that speaks to what I was gonna say was, so you hear about how you treat people, how to have empathy, how to be compassionate, and growing up without a man in the house, the manliest men on TV were all very abrasive. Not with everyone, but with situations. When a situation had to be handled, no matter what the situation was, there was a very large posture towards whatever situation required their attention. And everything doesn't. Some things require finesse. Some things require a gentle response. Some things require silence. You know what I'm saying? So not having that example, and then coming to learn about what the word says about manhood and how you start not becoming a man, but as you grow into your man, you start to adapt more things. As you start to emulate Christ, you recognize that everything doesn't require table flipping and whips. Some things require, daughter, go get me some water and let's chop it up when you come back and I can tell you about how to have a better life. You know what I'm saying? So there's just the different ways to respond to things. In my head, it was always very, you know, when I become a man, I have to stand bigger. It's like, yo, you 5'9", you never gonna stand no bigger. But how you respond is how you speak. You know what I'm saying? So
always have to be overt.
absolutely correct. But when you have no real example of it and displayed in the house, you develop this idealism of masculinity. And when you see it, and it looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger to me. Yeah. And he don't do nothing calmly. You know what I'm saying? If he's on the scene, it's a lot of stuff exploding. You know what I'm saying? So
it's wild. And it's funny though, because when it asked how has your walk with Christ really like helped you, shaped you, molded you, and it showed me grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, but on the flip side of that, it was I can still flip a table if I need to.
If I need to.
Absolutely. So it's like, so even when I talk about it, and I'm like, yo, with my kids, daddy's coming to shut it down. But with you, I have grace and patience because my job is to teach you, love you, and create a safe space for you.
Like I'm gently gonna move you out the way while I show you. It's balance. Like I'm scooping you. Everyone is getting what I came to give them, just different way.
But also, so even like with my nieces and nephews, these are my friends' kids that I really care about. Like the reality is when they do something, like my job isn't to come in and be that enforcer, even if it may seem like it might be necessary. My job is first to let you know I got you.
Yep.
And when you know I got you, then we can deal with the situation.
Absolutely.
But your priority, how you're feeling is priority.
Yep.
What you're experiencing is priority. Because the outside world is going to change no matter what.
Correct.
But you know you're good here.
It's good.
So what you just said about coming in and stepping in and having that safe space for your nieces and nephews, it's extremely important that you have something like that. Because I called my brother this week and I was like, bro, when we get out there, because I'm about to kill you, nephew, I promise on everything. I done prayed. I'm about to strangle him today. I'm gonna be one less child. And so I was like, so when we get there, I said, listen, you better take him, else I'm gonna take him out. So, and he went and had a conversation with him and stuff. But he needed that because there are some things like as his mom, he's just not going to tell me because he already has developed this mindset of what a man is by what he has seen. Mm-hmm. And so now he has to be able to connect with another man to give him teach him this is what it is to really be a man, and it's okay for you to be able to open up and express and talk about how you feel and hear it from somebody else who is willing to give him that space as a young man growing into that.
Something I really learned in college. Sorry. But something I learned in college that really I didn't realize was impacting me as well. But one of my professors sat me down and we were talking about the lack of male leadership in the household and how many people like either have toxic examples or no example. And we watched this documentary on South African elephants. And they showed how poachers had removed and killed off all of the male elephants. And the young male elephants were wilding out to the point where they were killing other animals, rhinos, like just killing them to kill them.
Nobody was there to keep them in line.
Nobody was there to keep them in line. And so when they realized that even though the mothers were present, they could not teach these young male elephants how to express themselves without killing other animals.
How to channel all that elephant testosterone, right?
So what they did was they went and they found another male elephant, relocated him into the herd.
Wow.
And the killing stopped.
That's dope.
Because they had male leadership.
Yeah.
And I was just like, when they showed the documentary and we were watching it all the way through, the male elephant wasn't beating on these little kids.
Nah,
He was
just by
showing them,
example.
He's like, this is what a man does. And I was just like, how many of our households are lacking that? Right? Like you could, and something like, actually you said it, you're like, usually male examples are brash.
Yeah.
And I still remember that episode of Family Matters when, I forgot the son's name, the oldest son. Eddie got in trouble with something with the law.
Yeah.
But when Carl went to address it, it wasn't, he was pissed, but he was calm.
Yeah.
And he was like,
It was control.
first off, let me show you how you deal with my son, but also let me show you how I can confront you without. Right? Like, I know how to conduct myself, because usually it's like, all hell break loose, we fight, like it is what it, but you can't handle every situation that way. And that always stuck out. I was like, but he was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without being abrasive or aggressive, and in a way that wouldn't have been suited for also his position.
Correct. Or the example that he was trying to set to his son, like this is how they treated you. I'm not gonna turn around and treat them the same. And I wish I could have seen that documentary, because in my head I could see the large elephant just walking and then just grabbing his trunk and slowly nudging the kid away from him. And just, just correct the small corrections.
I'm gonna try to find it.
But that's what it is, but it's those small corrections. You know what I'm saying? It ain't gotta be boisterous, it don't gotta be big, just little taps. Back in line. Go ahead, you know we do this all day. What you got, Doc?
One of her questions.
Another novel.
This one has bigger font.
And it's not even on the page.
I'm starting with me. Very 5 minutes. It's coming off the page.
Yeah, let her read it first, and then start.
This might be a 10-minute question.
It's cool.
It's probably a good one.
We started with the 5, working with the 10.
Okay. What is the hardest part of adult relationships for someone raised on survival? So in parentheses, I put from toxicity and not love.
Man. Everybody saying things like, oh,
I'm real.
15 minutes.
Can I see that one more time?
Wow.
Let me
Shit, I
just
thought
say,
you were gonna go.
Hey, I'm reading again.
Mine's gonna be, I don't think mine's gonna be too deep or long-winded, but I think that, I think the hardest thing that comes out of that is just trust. Like in adult relationships, just literally trusting that an individual, what they're telling you is real. What they're showing you is real. Like those things are the hardest. Because if you raise on survival, the whole thing is my survival is predicated off me protecting what I have going on here. So I don't know necessarily I can trust your word, but I'm gonna keep, you put it out there, I'm gonna keep it about here just in case it's not right. You know, just in case you weren't really being real with me, I'm gonna keep it about there. Because I can take it being wrong and it being over there. I can't take it being a lie and it's here. So it's the trust factor to me. I think that's the biggest, hardest thing.
I'll just use it from a different perspective. Okay, I'm just gonna use it from kind of a reverse perspective of what yours is. I look at it in the aspect of somebody who's on survival mode. I've been around somebody who's on survival mode. For one, you can't trust them. However, it's what can I get from you? Everything with the feeling, of course, you can't trust it, but it's always something in the back. We talked about them hidden agendas. When a personal survival mode is always, I need to do all this stuff and I don't care who I do it to or what I gotta do. I just need to get to it so I can still stay alive.
Yeah.
So when it's like that, when somebody's like that, you take good, you know what I'm saying? We'll just use a male. There's men who are on survival mode who's using good women, you know what I'm saying, and taking them off the bench and putting them in this relationship. And now it's starting, we're getting other questions like we were getting earlier. Like they were only being nice because we can't be friends because they're just misusing them. So really this one kind of catapults a lot of those other questions of what's going on in these relationships. Seen it with my own eyes, I've experienced it, I've heard it, and many times when people are on survival mode. And I'm just gonna speak in the aspect of coming up in an atmosphere of survival mode. When it's like that, you know, through crack epidemics and people doing things, people are willing to sell dope to somebody else and mess up their household so I can stay alive. Because if I don't need it. So you can't trust it, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of times, what's bad about the situation, it ain't always their fault. Because sometimes, like with the elephant, some people drop the crack in your community and then it just kind of happens like that. And now the fathers are taking out the household and it starts this epidemic where it's all this toxicity. And so all that stuff that's going on, needless to say, is where it started to keep trickling down to somebody's gonna have to change it. But like you said, you can't trust it, but a lot of times I look at them as leeches. Yeah. For people who's on survival mode. So I'm very cautious of your situation. Are you stable? Like mentally, because I've seen men who are emotionally and mentally not right, and they're on survival mode and they're messing up children, you know what I'm saying? And for me to have to pick up children where you call yourself a dad and you pull yourself from the household because you're not right mentally, because you want to be in survival mode and you're affecting generations upon generations. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a trickle effect. I look so far, I'm looking at least 4 generations down my line about the decisions I make today. I'm still, even just a divorce was hard enough on my children. You know what I'm saying? If it was 2 people grew apart or not, you still got to try to correct that so it don't trickle down 4 generations.
That's very good.
Subscribe so you don't miss next week's video.
And I was like, damn, that's so wild. But for me, how it impacted me in my relationships is similar to Chan. Like, I'll trust you to hear, but you may never get here.
Yeah, man.
Because if you F up out here,
you never get to the Holy
that's
Ghost.
cool.
By the organ.
But that's the thing. You can swing a knife out here. You right here, you never get that type of access.